Forged in legend, this is the Irish Air Corps Spitfire TR9. This is more than a model build, it's a tribute, a salute to the Irish pilots who flew with purpose, and to the machine that once carried them above the clouds. I'll start with the cockpit and gather all the parts I need, and there's quite a lot of them, and they're small. I'm starting with the pilot area and the tub sides. I'll spray them cockpit green, that's XF71 from Tamiya. At this point, a decision needs to be made whether you want open or closed canopies. A handy jig comes for the latter. But I'm going with the open canopy and open hatches, so I'll carefully remove the moulded access hatches. Replacements are provided with the kit. And when I say carefully, I do mean try not to slice your finger open. Anyway, now that the hatches are off, I'll file to smooth. The back of the seat is brown, and I'll detail the handles, knobs and switches. I've often been asked, why do I bother detailing like this when it won't be seen? True, it won't, but A, it's good practice, and B, I know it's done, and that's good enough for me. Besides, you can look back at the video, pre-fuselage close-up, and see the detail. And now I can start putting it together. Now I'll prepare the training section. The instrument panels I did in black, but then lightly ran over the raised parts. I think that gives a great looking effect. And I'll finish putting the cockpit together. Adding the decals to the panel really makes it pop. And that's the cockpit completed. Very happy the way it turned out, and bravo Airfix, it fitted together seamlessly. Now before we continue, let's talk a little about one of my greatest passions, Irish history. Irish military aviation began in 1921 when a single-engine biplane, a Martinsyde Type A Mark II, was bought to permit Michael Collins to escape from London should the treaty talks with Britain fail. The plane was named after Collins himself, the big fella. By June 1922, the Air Service HQ had been established at Baldonnel, County Dublin, and 14 pilots flew a total of 13 aircraft. The strength of personnel and aircraft grew slowly at first, and by 1926 the cadet scheme had been introduced to select future pilots, a process which is still in use to this day. After World War II, the Irish Air Corps sought to modernise its fleet and acquired several Spitfire Mk9 aircraft. Among them was PV-202, a wartime combat veteran originally built in 1944. In 1950-51, the aircraft was converted by Vickers Armstrong into the two-seater TR9 trainer, designed to train pilots on high-performance aircraft. It was delivered to Ireland in June 1951 and given the serial number IAC 161. The aircraft served primarily at Baldonnel Aerodrome, where it helped to train a generation of Irish military pilots. It remained active until the early 60s, after which it was used for ground instruction, before being sold into private ownership. In 1965, Baldonnel Aerodrome was named Casement Aerodrome, in honour of Roger Casement, an Irish nationalist who was executed by the British in 1916. Today, PV-202 IAC 161 is one of the few surviving and flying TR9 Spitfires, and a rare representative of Ireland's brief but proud chapter in Spitfire heritage. Onto the fuselage, and I painted a few pieces that need to be inserted, including the gas tanks. Now add the tub and then seal up the fuselage. Now I'll put the horizontal and vertical stabilizers together. And I'll put the radiators together and fit them. Next I'll build up the landing gear. Here it shows to place a clear piece, but I'm not going to do that as it'll be easier to spray without it. I can fill in later with microcrystal clear. The fuselage goes together very well with very little gapping, but the bit there is I use putty to fill and now sanding it down. And fit the wings on. It really does fit together incredibly well. I'm going to do the wheels, but not add them until later. Again, it makes spraying easier. Propeller flat black with yellow tips and red for the nose, and gunmetal for the exhausts. Now I'll prime light grey. And the main colour I'm using is XF71 green. I'll do a couple of coats, then with a pencil draw along the panel lines. Next, with a wet cotton bud, run along the pencil lines, which will smudge them. Then another coat of green. I want the panel lines visible but very subtle. Onto the decals, and first I spray the kit clear gloss. Once the undercarriage is done, I added the wheels. And decals to the propellers. I'm going with the open hatches, so just adding a little detail here as well. And finally the canopy glass, which I masked and sprayed green. And that wraps up the Spitfire TR9, a clean, satisfying build of an aircraft with real heart and history. No engine in this one, and no need for one. Sometimes it's enough to honour the shape, the story and the legacy. Credit where it's due, Airfix delivered an excellent kit, straightforward, well engineered and a pleasure to work with. Next up on the bench, I'm going from elegant propeller planes to deep space and an over-armoured starship. Yes, the USS Defiant, and I will of course be lighting it. I hope you enjoyed this one. Until the next time, keep your blades sharp, watch your seams, and never trust a decal.